All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling something that literally affects every single one of us, every single day: mastering the architecture of lasting wealth. I'm super excited to guide you through this explainer because, well, we're going to dismantle a really stubborn myth. You know the one: the idea that a massive salary automatically guarantees financial success. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a financial illusion. Because as you'll see, building a rock-solid financial house, it has very little to do with the size of your paycheck and absolutely everything to do with your foundation.
So, let's start with a quick hypothetical. Really picture this for a second. What would you do if you woke up tomorrow morning, checked your phone, and saw exactly $10,000 sitting unexpectedly in your bank account? Sounds pretty amazing, right? But here's the absolute shocker about human behavior and money. The data tells us that most people would end up blowing through that cash and finding themselves totally broke again within just a few short years. It's wild, but it's a completely startling reality.
And that brings us right to the core issue. The problem isn't actually how much you make. The real problem: people simply never learn how money actually works. But today, we're going to fix that. We're going to break down the biggest financial traps that almost everyone falls into, and we'll outline the simple, everyday habits that can completely rewrite your financial future. But to pull that off, we first need to confront a massive misconception.
Which brings us to part one: the wealth illusion. Let's break this high salary myth.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Most folks genuinely believe that becoming rich requires some massive, top-tier salary, right? But we really need to look closely at high income versus financial habits. On one hand, you've got people pulling in six figures, making huge money, but they rely entirely on that next paycheck. If the salary stops, they're flat broke. On the other hand, you have folks with average, everyday incomes who are just quietly building wealth year after year. The secret difference between these two groups: it's not their income. It's completely rooted in their financial habits. So what are the toxic habits causing that first group to fail? We've got to identify them so you can dodge them like the plague. This leads us to part two: 4 fatal financial mistakes. These are the traps literally keeping you broke. All right, mistake number one: spending before saving. It happens all the time. The second the paycheck hits, the average person immediately goes out and buys things they don't really need. And by the end of the month, there is absolutely zero left over to save. The wealthy, though, they flip the script. They operate on a golden rule: pay yourself first. They save and invest before a single dollar goes toward anything else. It's a total game changer. And this naturally brings us to the second mistake, which is lifestyle inflation. Picture your income going up over time. Awesome, right? But for most people, their expenses shoot up at the exact same rate. Every time they get a raise at work, they immediately upgrade the phone, lease a flashier car, or move into a bigger house. Their income grows, sure, but they instantly expand their lifestyle to gobble up every cent of that new money. It's a really painful reality, and it's captured perfectly by this quote from our source material: their income grows, but so do their expenses. Instead of becoming richer, they stay trapped in the same financial cycle. Think about how exhausting that is. Despite earning way more money, your true wealth stays totally stagnant. You're basically sprinting on a treadmill just to stay in the exact same place. Now, our third mistake is leaning way too heavily on debt. Look, credit cards can absolutely be useful tools if you manage them wisely. But using them to buy things you flat out cannot afford, that creates long-term, exhausting financial stress. On one side of the equation, your interest just keeps compounding and working against you. And on the other side, your hard-earned savings are slowly disappearing, just crushed under the weight of keeping up with those bad debt payments. The fourth and final fatal mistake is hoarding all your money in cash. You might think having a big pile of cash in a basic account is super safe, right? Well, there's an invisible force at play here called inflation. Inflation is literally slowly reducing the purchasing power, the actual value of your money, every single year if it's just sitting there idle. If your money isn't actively growing, it's actually shrinking. So, okay, we know the traps now. How do we actually build the house properly? This is where we pivot from playing defense to playing offense. Welcome to part 3, the architecture of wealth. Let's talk about making your money at work for you. To fight off that invisible drain of inflation we just talked about, smart investors put their money into assets that actually have the potential to grow over time. Depending on your personal goals and your risk tolerance, true wealth is built by diversifying. That means putting your money into a mix of things like diversified funds, owning businesses, or real estate. The absolute key takeaway here: you've got to put your money to work instead of just letting it take a nap in a checking account. But here's the thing: investing isn't just about money, it's heavily about your mindset. A major habit that separates highly successful people from everyone else is continuous learning. Wealthy folks are constantly educating themselves. They're reading books, they're learning new skills, following financial news, and actively seeking to level up their knowledge every single year. Because at the end of the day, the more you understand money, the better the decisions you're going to make. Let's see how this all builds up over time with our next highly underrated secret, patience. Look at year 1. It's just small amounts invested consistently. By year 5, you're really having to exercise some deep patience because the progress can feel painstakingly slow. But by year 10 and beyond, boom, those small amounts have grown massively. This is the absolute magic of compound growth. People always want to be rich overnight, but the data clearly shows that real sustainable wealth just takes time. Listen closely to this one. Success comes from consistency, not speed. Honestly, I find this so reassuring. You don't need a massive lottery win or some overnight tech startup success to make it. Lasting wealth is really just the result of steady, patient, kind of boring action repeated over a long period of time. All right, we've reached the final stage of our explainer today. Let's get incredibly practical and look at the actionable habits you need to kickstart this process. Part 4, the blueprint for financial freedom. Actionable habits for lasting wealth. If you genuinely want to break out of that exhausting paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, here is your 6-step foundation. Ready? 1, create a budget so you actually know where your money's going. 2, save a piece of every single paycheck. Remember, pay yourself first. 3, avoid unnecessary debt like the plague. 4, invest regularly into growing assets. 5, keep learning about personal finance. And 6, stay disciplined, even on the days when the progress feels agonizingly slow. Ultimately, the whole shebang boils down to this profound truth. Financial success is not about being lucky. It's simply about making smart decisions again and again. The small, everyday habits you build today are literally the exact bricks that will construct the life you live tomorrow. You absolutely have the power to build a sturdy financial house no matter what your current income looks like. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to really chew on. Which money habit are you going to change today to shape your tomorrow? Don't wait for a huge windfall or some massive promotion that might be years away. Take what we've unpacked in this explainer and apply it right now. Share this with someone who also wants to build a better financial future and take that very first step today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer and keep building that lasting wealth.